Welcome to our Lunchtime Live program on WJEJ, a partnership the third Thursday of the month with Washington County Public Schools. Today's show is sponsored by Volvo Group Trucks, a premier employer in Washington County. Follow them on Facebook at Volvo Group Hagerstown or visit the website volvogroup.com/Hagerstown. I'm Will Kaufman from the Public Information Office of Washington County Public Schools, joined by Jeff Proulx, who is our Chief Operating Officer, a familiar voice to the show, but a lot more and a lot varied the topic here today. Jeff, welcome. Appreciate you coming on.
Glad to be here, Will. Thanks for having me.
It's good to be here in any number of respects. The way this day is going, holy cow! Some traffic considerations out there. We're in the middle of I know you have multiple jurisdictions. I'm going to go right to the seasonal one, which is winter weather and the prospect that the school system has to make changes in schedules because of conditions, because of forecasts, because of all of the combination of things that can happen. You have a hand in that, and a rather hearty hand in that. Talk a little bit about the process of monitoring information, putting all of that together with staff, with other sources of information, and how we get to a conclusion.
Absolutely. So, it's perfect timing, as you just heard the weather here a minute ago. What we're looking forward to here for Saturday is a prime example of what we deal with on a regular basis. And we watch storms, sometimes as far as a week out, monitoring forecasts, in addition to just the regular news, meteorology forecasts that every average resident has access to. We also have a couple of paid services where we work with, one in particular where we actually can pick up the phone or send an email to a meteorologist who gives us specific down to the zip code type forecasting. So that's sort of the beginnings of what we look at. We're regularly on the phone with county road staff, Washington County Sheriff's Office, and then as it rolls up, let's say the morning of, we might have anywhere between 3 and 7 individuals on the road from our transportation department at, let's say, 3:30 in the morning, running roads, various parts of the county, each person assigned to a particular region. Definitely some of our more hardy areas that, more hills, more curves, more back roads. We're just definitely checking all those areas to make sure that our buses can access those areas. I'm usually then in discussion with them, with our maintenance and operations staff about clearing of buildings, making sure that our buildings can be open and parking lots safe for staff and students to arrive, to then advise the superintendent so we can have a decision all before 5 a.m.
It's really hard. We could do this every day, and it's still really challenging to impart all of that, all the layers to this, the timing of this, all of that and more goes into a decision. And I mean, we get the grousing, and we hear that before we get the nice job, and the nice call type of response, type of feedback. But there is a time, no matter what the call may be, whether it's a closing, whether it's a delay in the morning, or an early dismissal, there's a timing element to it. We have to have all of those steps in place hours before, all of the monitoring, all of the on-the-road work, before an actual decision can be made, and we have to make it in time to get the word out to everybody if something does affect school schedules.
It's a monumental task, and our transportation department really takes the heavy load on that. It's their recommendations, discussions with what our neighboring districts are doing, the other jurisdictions, whether it's over the river in West Virginia, north on the Mason-Dixon, east and west, in-state, and there's a bit of having friends and having company when you're making a decision. But ultimately, it is paramount about the safety of our students. Can they get to school safely? And the one we often talk about sometimes at the last juncture, but it is in our hearts as well, as what are the conditions for our walkers as well. It's one thing to really think about when transportation's on the road at 3 o'clock in the morning. They're testing road conditions. Oftentimes, we also have to think about what are the conditions for our walkers. Are the sidewalks clear, especially after a major snow event? How quickly are people clearing their sidewalks? So, snow clearing ordinances on sidewalks are in for a reason, and partly it's for students that are walking to school, so that they're not walking in the road where things are less safe.
It's all hands for us on deck in many respects at all levels, and yet we're a little bit dependent, and I say a little bit meaning a lot, on all of our jurisdictions here in the county, all of our municipalities, whether it's the state, county, right down to local municipalities, because it's all well and good if we have our properties ready to go, that you could walk on bare pavement to get to school. They have to get to our property first.
Absolutely. And one of the things, I as I do talk with colleagues from other jurisdictions, there's some have marveled to me is how can you guys be open as often as you're open? And that credit really goes to the road crews in Washington County, whether it's county roads, whether it's municipals, whether it's contractors. They do a fantastic job so that our buses can roll and we can have students safely at school. So a lot of credit goes to them. When we think about the early dismissal we had last week, there were one or two incidents where we actually called for the assistance of county roads to treat a road so that our bus could get there for the dismissal and we could get kids home safely. Where the bus pulled to the side of the road and said, "I need help," and county roads was there to bail us out. So a lot of credit goes to them.
It's a really challenging. The whole situation is challenging because we have so much geography to deal with. We do have the provision to sort of carve out a section of the county where we can make a different call about that section compared to the rest of the county. But and invariably, and the county's big enough where invariably we get anecdotal moments where somebody calls from XYZ cul-de-sac, from XYZ development, where maybe in that little section of the county, it's not perfect, and yet we're okay around the rest of the county. We still have to take those folks on because they can't safely get out.
We do, and you can't do this job with thin skin for sure. Right. But it's like anything else. It's like the meteorologists. It's like the political pundits. They can say all they want, but they're never right. We go through the same thing when we make snow decisions, but we do what we think is the right decision for the students of Washington County and what's safest for them. I
want to come back to the one thing you said before we move on to some other topics, but just so we're clear, we're not operating and trying to be open as much as we can with some level of bravado. We're not trying to be tough guys about that. We believe conditions are safe when we're making a call to stay open for a day or open most of a day.
That's correct.
So, Jeff Proulx is my guest. He's Chief Operating Officer for Washington County Public Schools. Your hand is in facilities. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about the governor's proposed budget yesterday when it comes to it's easy to say it's too early to either gripe on one side of the coin or to crow on the other side of the coin that we're in the money. It's way too early for that. But on first blush, what coming out of Annapolis yesterday?
Well, on the construction facility side, when we look at what the governor unveiled in his capital budget, it's a lot of what we expected. We received funding for finalizing Sharpsburg Elementary, for South High's partial roof replacement, which will complete that project. It's a multi-phase project. Money for a replacement chiller at North Hagerstown High School, new roof at Western Heights. And what we saw in his budget was equal to what the Interagency Commission on School Construction approved in December, which was the 75% funding recommendations. We do expect additional funding before the year is out, heading into FY21, to fully fund the chiller replacement at North, to fully fund the South High roof. Those were two partial fundings in the December approvals from the IAC. And additionally, we're expecting several $100,000 as seed money to get started on design for an full HVAC replacement at Smithsburg High School, and that is original to the school. So that's circa 1965.
Yeah, wow.
That's chugging along. We definitely can always use more capital money, and the state has been gracious to us. What I think our listeners should know is that for every eligible dollar of construction on schools, the state pays 79 cents, and we look for a county match of 21 cents. So we should never be turning money down from the state when the state's going to pay 4 out of every 5 cents. We need to take that, and we need to say, how much should we get?
As positive as we are about those specific elements you described, there's another 24, another 6 dozen. There's, project after project, maintenance project, or whether major or minor, they're just lined up.
Absolutely. The school system manages 3.5 million square feet under roof. We manage 1,200 acres, give or take. We have 45 school buildings and other operational buildings and program buildings. So when you start thinking about that, if we were to fully renovate a building or a school, let's say every year, a school would have to last 45 years. Every 2 years would be 90. As of late, new schools, when we think back to from Jonathan Hager opening to now we're coming up on Sharpsburg, which will be opening this summer, it's 4 years in between. So if we do just one building every 4 years, that means, I'll use Sharpsburg as an example because it's opening this year, 180 years. So it'll be the year 2200 when we open the next new Sharpsburg Elementary. I don't think anyone could expect a public building is going to last that long without any type of full modernization. But that's the schedule we're on right now.
And we don't patch in willy-nilly fashion. I mean, we have a whole set of priorities. We review them constantly. And so, but those, when you boil it down to long-term stats, that's staggering.
Right. And state recommendations are that a school building should last 50 years. So we are 3.5 times what is the state recommendation. But we really try to keep up with. And I think one thing is really clear: Washington County does a really good job of keeping after its buildings. Our buildings are in fantastic shape for the age that they're in. We try to replace roofs, boilers, chillers, windows, and doors on schedule. To maintain the integrity of the building. Because if you can maintain the envelope, keep them dry, keep them warm, keep them cool when they're supposed to be warm and cool, then the rest of the building will take care of itself. But, in 180 years, you're likely going to need 6 or 7 roofs on that building over 180 years. You're going to have to redo the entire electrical system and plumbing system 2 to 3 times. At some point, we like to say sometimes you're chasing good money after bad. I think, that's probably a colloquialism, maybe from my parents, where does it make sense to really say it's time to do a full modernization instead of piecemealing? I'm going to do HVAC this time, roof in 5 years, electrical in 10, to come in and do it all at one time and walk away from it for a number of years.
But we may never be in a position, we, including the county, including the state, all the possible sources of funding, we may never be in a position to fully execute that formula.
You're right, because I think one of the challenges that everybody has, and I would say this is probably a national crisis as it relates to public construction, is that the inventory and the need is so large that we don't know where to begin and we don't know where to take the first bite. So we're nibbling. Everybody's nibbling. We're nibbling around the corners, but at some point we've got to start taking chunks. But that's a larger discussion for a larger day.
Yeah, it is.
And to that end, House Bill 1 and Senate Bill 1 from the General Assembly, of course their session's been open now 8 days, is on public school construction to leverage $2.2 billion in the state of Maryland on public school construction over the next, I think it's 10 years. So it's a big number. It's a staggering number. But really it's a drop in the big bucket.
What would our figure be to clear the decks of the list right now? The facilities list, just a ballpark figure. It's got to be a huge number.
Well, it's quick math in my head. Right now the reimbursable rate for school construction is about $329 a square foot. We have 3.5 million square feet under roof. So, 9 billion? Is that, am I removing all my decimals in the right place in my head? Somewhere along those lines.
Right.
It's a huge number.
That's beyond staggering then. Yeah.
I might have one too many decimals. It might be 900 million.
Yeah.
But still, it's a big number. It's a huge number.
Right. It's not even a lottery win. We couldn't even handle it with a lottery win.
I mean, we've been doing elementary schools predominantly in our renovations. The new Sharpsburg is a $26 million project and change. That's a small school. Yeah, that's a 400 seat, give or take, 471 seat elementary school. Doesn't have science labs, doesn't have athletic fields, doesn't have all of the other things you have when you start tackling a big building. When you start tackling big buildings, I hate to throw around numbers that are from other places of the state, because we really try to stay to the reimbursable state number and not, quote unquote, air quotes, overbuild a building. But we're seeing high school construction in other places of the state. And again, it depends on enrollments, but anywhere from 100 million to 200 million for a high school.
For a building.
I saw one
Yeah, wow.
in this year's state submissions that's about $189 million for a brand new high school. I don't even know where to begin to try to ask the county to fund that.
Right. You're listening to Lunchtime Live on WJEJ, Washington County Public Schools, here the third Thursday of the month at this time. Today's show is sponsored by Volvo Group Trucks, a premier employer in Washington County. Follow Volvo on Facebook at Volvo Group Hagerstown or visit the website volvogroup.com/Hagerstown. Jeff Proulx is my guest as Chief Operating Officer of Washington County Public Schools. A couple of particulars about Sharpsburg. Ready to go here soon, huh?
Yeah, I mean, we're still working through definitely some things. We're, ran into some weather delays all along with this project, but we're getting there. Really excited for the community of Sharpsburg to see this building come to fruition. The school looks great. I've been out there a number of times. We're pushing for substantial completion in the month of June, so that we have opportunities to wax floors and do all the things, move furniture, and do all the things that we need to do for that opening in August. 56,000 square foot building, about $27 million, all in. Great new full-size gym that is available for community use, cooking kitchen in the cafeteria, fantastic media space, maker space, classrooms, just fantastic. And the old Sharpsburg was built in the 30s. The original section of Sharpsburg was built in the 30s. So we've had the mayor out there a couple of times, walking through the site, just looking at the building, and it's just great for the town of Sharpsburg.
And I think you and I can crunch the numbers and talk about the black and white of it. But I don't think there's any way to really get the perfect measurement of the emotion in the community when we open that baby, and it's sitting there as the school in that community. There's something to that.
It is really exciting to be at a new school on the first day and to watch the kids come flooding in the doors, into the teachers, and just the awe they have as they're looking around while coming through the door, the excitement of entering into that new school. Not that I want to go back to being 8, 9, 10 years old again, but boy, that's exciting times for those kids.
I know folks are always concerned. There's a little bit of a redistricting element many times when you're opening new buildings, and there are some other peripheral things that happen because of it. But boy, I'm hard pressed to think what the downside is to walking into a shiny new school, with all of the elements that come with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
A lot of action still downtown with the urban improvement project. What's the latest there?
So, of course, as everyone in the community probably knows, the theater opened in October. Our building, which is the academic center for Barbara Ingram School for the Arts, for folks that don't know, for the last 10 years, our students at Barbara Ingram have been in leased space for academics, from University System of Maryland to the Bridge of Life Church across the street to the Grand Piano Building, using the library, a number of different facilities. So we now have a classroom building adjacent to our building. They'll actually be fully connected when the building opens. But
for the record, none of the programs has been at the Broad Axe.
That's correct. That's correct.
Right.
After our staff, perhaps.
We've been above board on the use of facilities.
Absolutely. But great to get our students in there. We should be at some substantial completion of that building end of April, early May. Again, going through the process, waxing floors, getting furniture, moving. So we'll have full opening of that building for the start of the new school year. Fantastic spaces. We're actually even moving to programs from the technical high school into Barbara Ingram School for the Arts that are tangential to the arts. We're moving the computer gaming and design program and the digital media program, which go hand in hand with what we do at BISFA. So we're excited to see that move, which is creating openings for other moves at Tech High and 2 new programs at Tech High.
Well, we'll have no use for other facilities then? No need for any other facilities downtown?
We'll have a little bit of offsite storage that we do for prop storage and things for the theater program. We'll still use the library. We still have a need for a library. That the new building does not have a library. We'll still use the downtown Hagerstown library, but we will be fully contained in our own buildings.
Do we have it down? Barbara Ingram's been open for a while now. Do we have it down, the whole business of dead center city education, delivery of education, getting kids in and out, them getting in and out, all of that. Is everything about that relatively smooth operating at this point?
I think it is. Of course, we threw that out the window over the last year and a half with all the construction we've had downtown.
Right, of course.
Which
that was for everybody, not
is a
just the
moving.
school.
Right, absolutely, it was just a moving target of is the road open today? Isn't it open today? Where are we dropping off? What's the safe entry? But I think we do. And as we finish this project downtown, the last phase of what we call the UIP, the Urban Improvement Project, is a plaza behind the Barbara Ingram School and behind the courthouse and the Maryland Theater.
Right.
So the city is in charge of that phase of the project. There should be some remaining dollars from the governor's bond money that he donated to the UIP that should be able to facilitate that project. But it's really been a great opportunity down there for all of the groups to partner, private sector, nonprofits, government, ourselves, the county, the city, Maryland Theater, Hager 5, USMH, really to pull in together and say, let's do something really good for downtown. And hopefully we can jumpstart some private development in the downtown core.
We have been very, very successful. I don't think that's going to end anytime soon with partnerships, public-private partnerships. Goes well beyond this one.
Sure. We've got two others in the hopper that'll be. One's already out to bid. The other should be going out the door here for bid shortly. But the first one is an improvement at Boonesboro High School. That's a renovation to the auditorium and finalizing the secure vestibule for the school. This one is a partnership with the community of Boonesboro and with the Nora Roberts Foundation to really do something great for what's really been a budding drama program in Boonesboro, and that program under Mr. Baer's guidance has just done tremendous things over the years. So there's a great opportunity there. That's out to bid currently and should be to the board here in February for construction really to begin during the school year in March to get things started, and should be open by the time we open school in August. The second in Smithsburg is some work on their stadium area where we've partnered with the Smithsburg Athletic Boosters. New team rooms, actually, I should say the first team rooms. They don't have locker rooms at all down at their stadium. They're remote, if you're familiar with the Smithsburg site, at the bottom of the hill. So we'll have some locker rooms down there, new concession stand, new ticket booth, room for the trainer to do some work. Officials can also use the trainer's room. So a good advancement to the stadium, and Smithsburg community is talking about some other projects yet that I'm probably not privy to talk about, but there's more in the hopper, more good things I think coming out of Smithsburg. And
these things walk up to us. We don't go out. We're not soliciting. We're not shopping. We're not advertising.
Correct. The board has established a public-private partnership process. There's an application, there's a policy around partnerships. So those that are proposing partnerships will file an application through the school principal, who reviews it, asks a lot of questions, might help to vet and refine the application a little bit before it moves on to their executive director and on to the deputy superintendent's office, where then we consult and ultimately present to the superintendent, and if he warrants, then to the Board of Education. Usually those groups come forward with any percentage of money for the project, seeking assistance from the board and making the project come to fruition. So I think from the board's perspective, we're looking for projects that we definitely see as improvements for the learning process for our students. You could look at the Smithsburg project and say, how is that the learning process? Well, athletics, arts, music, it's all part of the foundation of what we think about for public education. So it enhances the process. Also, as it relates to Smithsburg, provides a safe haven for students when they are down the hill should a storm swoop up. It's a safety aspect as well. So really, we're looking for those types of projects to enhance the educational environment for our students and bring value to the community.
We're never that far away, whether inside the system or out in the community, of talking about the safety and security of our buildings, our facilities, the students, the staff, and the community in many respects too. Those safety security upgrades continue and will continue for a while. It'll never be perfect by any stretch, but we're making those improvements based on any number of factors.
Absolutely. From From a manpower perspective, we continue to work with the chief of police in Hagerstown and the county sheriff with our SRO program, the School Resource Officer program. Sheriff Mullendore sought a grant through the Center for School Safety for additional resource officers. So we're waiting for officers to come through training so that we can hire additional resource officers that'll be grant funded. So we're happy about that, to grow the ranks of the school resource officers. From a facility perspective, we have ongoing projects again. We'll be doing some investments in Smithsburg. At the high school, we're going to enclose the walkway from the main building to the gym. The gym is actually an annex to the building. It's not uniquely connected. So this will connect the building. So students making transport from the main building to the gym will be enclosed. So we'll be working on that this summer, plus probably a little bit of a tweak to their vestibule. Smithsburg Middle, refining the vestibule, actually creating a new visitor entrance at Smithsburg Middle to make that a little bit more secure, similar to what we've done in a few other places. And same thing at Williamsport High School. We plan on doing another tweak to their vestibule. Both those schools, Smithsburg Middle and Williamsport High School, have a unique scenario where the main thoroughfare hallway separates the main door in the office. So we've got to come back and just do something that, again, we want to vet anyone entering our building. It should be there, is appropriate, is not, let's say, exhibiting characteristics that would deem a risk before they're given entrance to the building. Right. So we want to work through that with some of our vestibules. We'll continue to look at other programs and things as well. We still have some county money that's been assigned to us, but we're trying to be very prudent in how we use it to serve the greatest need and the greatest risk areas. So we're taking our time to make sure that we don't overspend before we get there, to make sure that we're methodical.
It's funny, too, because it feels good, and I'm sure the community, members of the community would agree with that, whether it's parents or if you don't have a tie, knowing that we're doing a lot of this work not based on a crisis, not based on an incident. We've taken it on as regular business, making changes, making upgrades related to safety and security, not based on an emergency need.
And we learn a lot, unfortunately, from places where there are emergencies. Right. In the state of Maryland, there's been a lot of collaboration with St. Mary's County based on the incident that they had. And every time there's an incident, there's always a briefing. So our security staff, in conjunction with the Center for School Safety and the additional trainings they operate under, really continue to work and refine our practices. It's partly why, some of the members of the community were concerned with some of the changes we made to our visitor policies this year. But it is all about who's supposed to be in a building, why are they in a building, and preserving for the safety of our students and staff.
Speaking of staff, before we go, we have a couple of recognitions coming up. The support personnel will have sort of a new recognition.
I'm so excited about this, Will. Yeah. This has been a couple of years in the making. But for the first time ever this year, what I believe is going to be an ongoing annual event is Educational Support Personnel Recognition, sort of an ESP of the Year, as it is, comparatively to our Teacher of the Year program. We're doing this in conjunction with the Washington County Public Schools Education Foundation, who's the lead on it, and we're down to 5 finalists, one from each of a major section area, and one of those 5 is going to walk away as the WCPS ESP of the year. And so our support personnel just do tremendous work for our students every day and for our community, whether it's clerical staff work, whether it's IT technology work, whether it's bus drivers, food service staff, custodians keeping buildings clean, maintenance guys keeping them operable, our paraprofessionals assisting students, whether it be one-on-one or on a full class level. Just tremendous work every day, and it's right that they're recognized.
Which comes at a time, too, when within the next week, our annual celebration of service, which honors employees at all levels of the system. We do it every year, the 5-year folks and on from 10 and beyond. A lot of veterans who will be honored as part of that, veteran employees in the school system. So can't do it without the employees.
Absolutely not. They carry us through every day. They're indispensable. Yeah.
Jeff, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to have you. Jeff Proulx, Chief Operating Officer of Washington County Public Schools. Today's Lunchtime Live program has been sponsored by Volvo Group Trucks. a premier employer in Washington County. Follow them on Facebook at Volvo Group Hagerstown or visit the website volvogroup.com/Hagerstown. It's the third Thursday every month. The partnership Lunchtime Live is between Washington County Public Schools and WJEJ.